Hey, Jasen Rice here with another Lotparty quick tip. And I was talking with one of our reps here, Steve Eberhardt, about just results and what dealers are seeing and some metrics that were actually off at one of his stores. And, I forgot about some of these, the cause and effects of getting better at inventory management. And one of them, I've talked about often or before. But another one, it didn't dawn on me, or I told, man, I forgot about that. And that was SRP BDP. We're looking at one of the dealers, actually their average investment was going up. And so their turn rate was going down. And so was the SRPs and VDPs. And initially I thought too, they had a big spike in inventory levels. So I thought maybe they're getting behind in photos and descriptions, and they weren't. But basically, one of the metrics that are actually going to go a little bit south or bad on you, which when these metrics go bad, we tend to blame the vendor. And one of them is, let's say, SRPs and VDPs. So your total SRPs and VDPs actually could go down. Let's just say over the last 3 or 4 months, you had the same amount of cars, 100 cars on a lot. So the per car, let's just push that to the side and look at your total. So everything being equal, you have the same amount of inventory, but yet your SRPs and VDPs start dropping off. And the first thing you want to do a lot of times is react and maybe question the vendor. Why Cars.com or Auto Trader or whoever, Car Gurus, why is my activity down? Why am I getting less SRPs and VDPs per car? And again, if you're better with your inventory or turning it faster, that number is going to go down. When you've got cars leaving your lot on an average day at 20 versus an average day at 40, your SRPs and VDPs are going to be cut in half almost. I mean, if you just cut the time in half, the car spinning on your lot. So a car that's 40 days old, and if you looked at the longevity of the SRPs and VDPs, that car can have thousands and hundreds of SRPs or VDPs because it's been there for 40 days versus that car it's only been there 20 days. So when you look at SRPs, what's up, Jeremy? How you doing? The SRPs and VDPs are actually going to go down, and that's a reflection of turning your inventory faster. It's not necessarily a bad thing at all. Actually, there's actually 3 now that I'm thinking about it, and it's 3 metrics that you could be looking at. And the one I'm just talking about, the third one that I'm talking about right now would be, one of the things we're seeing with dealers had an increase. We track a breakdown on like Car Gurus and Cars.com on their good, fair, and bad deals. Or not necessarily bad, but they're great, good, and fair deals. We have a dealer whose good and great deals has actually dropped off, and his fair and overprice actually went up. I think that was on Car Gurus, and he's actually has more fair and overpriced essentially pricing now on his Car Gurus, but it's actually an okay or good thing because this dealer has 90% of his inventory is 0 to 30 days old. His 1, 2, 3, 10, 14 day old cars are priced 97 to 103%. So they're just they're maybe good, but they're going to be, fair or high priced right now because they're so fresh. He doesn't have any 70-day-old cars at 88% and great deals because of the fact of his inventory so clean. He's got more fresh. So thank you very much, Jeremy. And so his actual fair deals is higher, and he has less great and good deals, and it's an okay metric. So there's actually, I'm giving you a bonus one. That's the third one. The second one that I was going to be talking about, a metric that goes bad, and it's a little bit hard to explain. I'll simplify it a bit. I've explained it before, but as we got better with dealers with inventory management, especially used cars, their used car closing percentages dropped off. All of a sudden they went from let's just 10 or 12% closing percentage on used cars down to 8% or 6%. We're wondering what the heck. You would think the better we're getting with used car inventory, the more leads we're getting, the more used cars we'd be selling, the better our used car closing percentage was happening. And that wasn't the case. What was going on was, let me give you an example. If you have 100 cars, and when you're okay with inventory management, you got 1 or 2 cars per lead. So you get 100 leads. Okay, so you get 100 leads, and let's say 20% of those leads are on cars that sold. right? Because you're getting 1 or 2 leads per car, maybe none, but let's say on average 1 or 2 leads per car. All of a sudden, you got 20% of these leads on cars that sold. So if you got 100 cars in inventory, 20% are on cars that sold. That leaves 80 active leads on cars that are still available. So if you close at 10%, that'd give you 8 deals out of that 80. 8 deals. Now, but your CRM is going to take those 8 deals out of your total 100 leads, not the 80 that are still active, the total 100. So you'd have an 8% closing percentage. You sold 8 or 10% of the 80 because the other 20% sold. There's your 8%. Fast forward, you get better with your inventory, you're pricing more competitively and more aggressive, you got better photos, you got better description. Now you're getting 3, 4, 5 leads per car. And instead of just 20% of your leads on cars already sold, you got 40% of your active leads on cars already sold. You got 5 leads, the car sells to this customer, now all of a sudden you got 4 leads dangling out there. So again, go back to the math, you got 100 leads, but now 40% of these leads are on cars that are already sold. That only leaves 60 active leads on cars still in stock. If you close 10% of those, like you did the 80, you're down to just 6 deals. Your CRM is going to take those 6 deals compared to the 100 you have in leads, and 100, 6 deals out of 100 is a 6% closing percentage. So you went from an 8% down to a 6% closing percentage, but you actually have, more active leads on cars that are sold. Now you take these customers, put them down a different funnel, subject line or the first line in that email or that text could be, hey, this 2015 Honda Accord sold, now what? And then ask them, are you looking for this particular car or a similar car in this price point, and start getting them on something else. If it's a used car, they have to buy something else. They have no other choice, and hopefully you have some similar cars that you can switch them to. So that's actually, I said 2 metrics that actually go bad but are actually good for you. I bumped it to 3 during this talk, speaking it through. Again, 1 metric that goes bad is going to be your SRPs and VDPs, because you don't have age cars anymore. If your cars are selling in 20 days instead of selling on average in 40 days, it takes half the time to sell it. It's half the exposure. Your conversion percentages might be higher, but you have less SRP, VDP totals. Don't blame the vendor on that. It's you're doing a better job selling your cars. Second metric that goes bad is what I just went over. Your used car closing percentage can drop off because you're getting more leads on cars and you're selling them, and now you got a bunch of active leads on cars already sold. So your closing percentage drops off, but that's kind of a good thing again, because you're turning those cars quicker. Now you have a database of customers that maybe you can switch to, have something to talk to them about. And the third thing that I brought up a little bit ago was maybe good and great versus your fair and overpriced metrics on like Auto Trader, Car Gurus, where they say, hey, you got all these cars at fair price, and all of a sudden you want to jump on them and go, man, why you got all my cars at fair price? I can price my cars competitively. Well, if you have a bunch of fresh cars that you're still right at the market, a little bit below, a little bit above, those are going to be more fair deals than those age cars that we have at 88% of the market. So if you have a high percent of age inventory, you're pricing them aggressive, you're going to have a lot more great and good deals versus fair deals. So hopefully this is helpful. These are metrics that if you look at, you might overreact, but you're actually doing better if you're handling your inventory better. If you're not handling your inventory better and all these metrics are going sideways on you, you got other problems. If you need any help, give me a call, 844-LOTPOP4. Free evaluation on our website, lotpop.com. All these tips go on our YouTube channel, Lotpop Inc. Also on SoundCloud or iTunes. You can listen to them there. Hope this is helpful, and let me know if you need anything.